All right, welcome to another edition of Livestream Q&A Friday. I am your host, Benjamin Krause. Today we're going to be talking about retraining problems in the Department of Veterans Affairs, how this might affect you, and some of the other things that we've been hearing about. Very excited to share this information with you and hopeful that, if nothing else, if you're watching this, we're going to equip you with some information that will help you know what to do when you're running into VR&E delays. Again, we're talking about VR&E delays. We're talking about VR&E delays and probably bad decision-making that's going to be coming from Department of Veterans Affairs here in the very near future because of understaffing and other types of problems. So we're going to be bringing it to you first. Again, I'm your host, Benjamin Krause. I am a VA-accredited attorney who fought with the VA to go from 10% to 100% permanent in total. It only took me a little over a decade. And then also during that time, was able to fight with and win approval to go to school to become a lawyer, and now a VA-accredited lawyer. And I help veterans do the same thing all the time. And that's what I do. I help veterans become leaders in society because it's important. We want more veterans in positions of leadership in America, including in hospitals, in Congress. God, that would be really great, wouldn't it? To get back to that point, or in corporate America, you know, in your churches, anywhere. We want veterans to be in positions of leadership and not at home, keeping their really interesting backgrounds and information on themselves. So this is what we're doing. This is what we're talking about. And I'm here to talk about the current update and news. When it comes to Department of Veterans Affairs and Veteran Readiness and Employment, I can assure you that there is a major problem afoot because the Department of Veterans Affairs had no idea how many veterans were going to be claiming Veteran Readiness and Employment benefits. They were woefully understaffed, and now they're getting hammered. What that also means is that veterans are being hammered. Veterans are not going to be able to get their claims through in even a reasonable amount of time. And by a reasonable amount of time, I might say, you know, maybe 3 months-ish to try to make that happen. No, veterans are going to be applying right now for VR&E benefits thinking that they're going to get approved in some regional offices, in the next few months or even hopefully before the fall. And that is just not going to be a reality for a lot of people. And they're only telling people about this through email. There's not a lot of information out there. Fortunately, God has blessed me with a decent sized platform here. So we are able to bring it to you by video and by blogging. So those are my two weapons of choice here is the First Amendment. I love the First Amendment. Hopefully you never have to rely on the Second Amendment. So that's why we have the First Amendment, and very important. And so we're here to share with you what is happening, to give you information so that you can fight back, so that you can get your benefits. If you happen to be watching this and you have a question, feel free to put your question in the comment below. I will see your questions in YouTube and in Facebook. I used to be able to get those this streamed into Facebook, our Facebook group, which is awesome. We have over 40,000 veterans in there. And then Facebook apparently decided they wanted to jigger with the system. And so people who have been normally live streaming into the group, like I've been doing for years and years and years and years, they no longer want you to be able to use the software of your choice. And they want you to go into the Facebook group and do it manually, and their software doesn't work. So that's exciting. And I just tried to do it here and it didn't work. So I eventually just gave up. But here we are on the YouTubes and on the LinkedIn interwebs and on at least our Facebook page. So maybe some veterans will see it. If you happen to have questions, be sure to ask them. This is what we do. Hey, Bill, I see your question, and I'm going to get into that in a second. But if anyone else, if you have a question, put it in there. I will do my best to answer it here. Again, if you're tuning in, I am a VA-accredited attorney. What I'm going to talk about here is not going to be legal advice. I am not your attorney. I am a guy who is happened to be trained in law, and I'm reading through this. And I'll give you my educated guess on what may be going on, but please, I am not your attorney. I have not seen your file. This is not legal advice. Okay. Having said that, boom, feel free to ask questions away. I'll do my best to point you in the right direction. Here we're talking about resources, what to do when a veteran is being delayed. And now apparently we're finding out the delays are up to 11 months, which to me signals, oh, it's actually 13 months or it's actually 15 months. We don't want to put that in writing yet, though, because, it's going to make Congress mad and we're going to look like jerks because we just said we were ready to go in Veteran Benefits Administration when it came to the PACT Act, and come to find out they weren't. And so they're just totally understaffed. They're not getting it done right. And veterans are going to pay the price because, why not keep paying the price? You already paid the price once. They're just going to keep making you pay the price more. More delays, more denials. We're going to be seeing a lot of that in the future. I have opened my practice up to helping veterans when it comes to veteran readiness and employment, and dealing with bad decisions, and helping veterans appeal to become doctors and lawyers, executives, counselors, professors. It's what I do. It's what I'm super passionate about. And that's how we give back to the community. And this is what we're doing. So if you, again, are watching this and you have a question, feel free to ask that question. I'll do my best to provide an answer here for you. So if you're a veteran and you are stuck in this like quagmire where you just put in your claim, you just put it in, and you're now hearing, Krauss here is saying that I have to wait 11 months. Well, there's good news. First, that is only applicable at certain regional offices, in particular the bigger ones. So where there are lots of veterans. So San Diego is one such office. There is most likely, I would say, Waco, Houston are probably going to run into problems. St. Petersburg, Florida, going to run into problems. Probably, maybe Los Angeles, I don't know, but Oakland probably. There's going to be some other problems as well up in like New York and areas that are more populous when it comes to veterans. So veterans are going to have a hard time getting access to timely adjudications of VR&E benefits. In addition to that, many of the newer VR counselors that are being hired in, so these are vocational rehabilitation counselors that VA is hiring, are going to be under trial by fire, meaning they're not going to get training to come up to speed in the same way they used to. They're basically taking the training wheels off. They're like, ready to go, here you go. And hopefully they're going to make smart decisions for veterans. Odds are, though, they're going to be under pressure to produce because, as many of us know, the Department of Veterans Affairs, in particular Veteran Benefits Administration, is all about production and quotas and all this other stuff. Unfortunately, they kind of deny it, but that is actually true, and they have to hit the numbers or they get dinged. And so they have scores and things like that they have to, unfortunately, do. And as a consequence of that, veterans get shafted because we get bad decisions. And veterans, require more time on their claim, end up getting pushed out. And that's just the reality. So we're talking about delays. The bigger one that I've seen so far is at San Diego. I've heard up to 20 months at another location, but I couldn't get clarity about where that was. I asked our group about this, so if you're curious about it, we have a Voc Rehab group. It's in Facebook. We're probably going to be moving it out of Facebook because right now we are learning that Facebook has some different ideas on what to do with our communities that we built up there. And so we're going to have to move it out so that it's in a platform where we can reasonably control it. Facebook is rented space, as most people know. And when they make decisions, you don't have a say in it. And I am done with that crap. I will tell you what, I had to deal with that stuff when I was in the military, and I am not in the military anymore. So I choose to do things the way that makes most sense and not in some kind of weird arbitrary manner. So here we are. Anyway, so first issue, lots of delays. Delays are going to get worse. Decisions are going to be worse. Veterans are going to get probably even treated even more poorly by the same counselors that were treating them bad to begin with. Hopefully there will be a few counselors that will rise above and do fantastic jobs. I've talked to many of them. I know who they are by name. There are many great counselors in the VR&E system. Hopefully you get one. But if you don't, you may get shafted. So that's just kind of how it is. And that's why I do what I do, because it's important. Anyway, so I'm going to jump in real quick. Bill Lumberg has a question. He says, let's see if I can get it to show up on the screen. Now, let's see. Here we go. Bill, I was found entitled by my previous VRC and have the approval memo. This is good. Approvals are good. My new VRC so far does not agree. Can my new VRC overturn my entitlement? Okay, great question. I don't know enough about this to provide you with specific advice, but what I can tell you is my experience on other cases I've worked on appeals where we've been successful dealing with challenges that are similar to yours. And so this does happen. It happens very frequently. There are a lot of veterans who get denied, like they'll go in and think that they're approved for lawyer, and really what they're approved for is like legal industries or something like that. So they finish their undergrad thinking the next step will be law school, and come to find out, not the next step. And the VRC will then bounce them out as either maximum rehabilitation gain, or they'll cajole the veteran into basically accepting a job that's below what they were hoping to be approved for. It's a real tragedy, but this has really been happening a lot. It's been happening for over a decade. It's a long-standing problem. So just so you're aware, so having said that, in an instance like this, generally, but not always, generally, it should be difficult for a new VRC to overturn a favorable grant of benefits of a prior VRC absent essentially new and material evidence. So absent new and material evidence. So if there is a situation where nothing changes, in April you were approved, new counselor enters in April 15th, now it's May 3rd, but now suddenly you're denied. And you're like, what? Or they're contemplating denial. They're trying to negotiate you into lesser than what you were originally approved for. Now, generally, they're going to be bound by a prior favorable finding. Okay, a prior favorable finding. However, that doesn't mean that you're not going to have to fight and argue and potentially, contest this. There are options if you need to contest anything. You can do it yourself. You can go talk to a VSO. Most VSOs don't know a lot about VR&E. Some do. So just make sure that whoever you talk to knows a lot about VR&E before you use them. This is what I do for a living. It's a paid thing if you want to hire me, but I do it for a living. We do give free case evals with my team, though. And there's a lot of other information in our Facebook group and also on my website or blog, disabledveterans.org. if you happen to want that information. So also to point out, I'll see if I can get this to work. There we go. So if you want to reach out to me, BenjaminKrauseLaw.com is an easy spot to go. My blog, where we write about things that are going on within the VA. Like currently, we were just talking about the tragedy of the vet center crisis, where vet centers are not only struggling with bad training and understaffing, but also have been, in some instances, telling their officials or their clinical workers to underrepresent or misdiagnose symptoms of PTSD or underdiagnosed symptoms of PTSD, depending on the circumstance. And at least in one instance, it resulted in a veteran ending his life tragically. This was in South Bend. It's on the blog, disabledveterans.org, if you want to check it out. That's where we have a lot of material about disability benefits, about VR&E, lots of different things. So if you end up wanting that input, definitely feel free to look there. Now, I think that, so if you are dealing with a vet center, I just want you to be aware that in vet centers, the records don't necessarily automatically go to your health record system. That doesn't mean VA central office can't go into it and see it. It just means that it doesn't automatically go in, as I understand it, into your healthcare record. So what that means is if you're getting disability compensation benefits and it's based on perhaps some of the findings of your clinical, like social worker or something like that at the vet center, that evidence may not be in your claims file. So you may need to manually go get it, bring it to VA, and then have them adjudicate. So I just want you to know that. Now, going back to Bill Lumberg's situation, usually, if the veteran has not been discontinued from the program, a prior favorable finding of fact should be binding on the agency. That doesn't mean that it will be. That just means that it should be, okay? And there's going to be exceptions about that, but make sure you keep your documentation and make sure that when you're communicating with the new VRC that you're doing it in writing, that if you have to send in a letter, it's signed and dated. A lot of veterans forget to put dates on letters. Signed and dated. And then submit it to the agency by fax. I tend to prefer fax because it gives you a little, fax thing, shows it was sent. And so that's super important, very useful. Anyway, so communicate with this VRC in writing because it sounds like you're going to have problems in the future. And you just got to kind of, what do they call it? Hope for the best, plan for the worst, and it'll work out, most of the time. So then I have another comment here from Rolando. I'm so sorry. I'm going to butcher your last name. Rolando Alexis. I'm assuming that's the last name. Anyway, so Rolando says, my understanding is that this will affect a veteran initial meeting. It's true. To determine eligibility. Will these delays affect a veteran who's already been established as entitled? So I think the answer is yes. And I'll tell you why. I think that the answer is yes because If these counselors are so burdened with the initial application process that they're pushed out 11 months or longer, to me, that suggests that they're also overburdened with a lot of other things. So you have to realize that it's not just you in the system anymore. Now it's a bunch of other veterans. So I've heard stories of some counselors who are now up to 300 or more veterans that they're responsible for, which is astonishing because they don't have the support staff to handle that kind of caseload. Now, the VA policy has formally been that they're not supposed to have more than 125, and that was set in place by Eric Shinseki back in like 2012, 2013, when these problems became known, where VR&E was not hiring the way they should have and not asking for more money the way they should have. And as a consequence of this, veterans were being underserved, and that program was being understaffed, and veterans were being wrongly denied, all these other things. Well, it's still going on, folks. This has not changed. The staffing has maybe improved a little bit, but now we're realizing, well, they forgot that when they threw the doors open to the PACT Act and gave away all this entitlement, which is good, they forgot that may apparently have a ripple effect in other forms of other benefits. So very interesting problem they're going to have. So I would anticipate the same issue is going to be true with Chapter 35, Chapter 36 potentially. A lot of different things are going to happen. So we want to just make sure that these options are explored and understood. So for veterans that are being affected, that are in the program, odds are it is going to delay things when it comes to processing your approvals each semester, when it comes to processing your subsistence payments, when it comes to processing change requests, like all sorts of things. I would bet that all hell's about to break loose within VR&E, and they're going to have a whole bunch of problems, and then the agency will do what it normally does in an election year, and we'll try to cover it up. So that's what's probably going to happen. We are probably going to get a lot of cover up, is my guess. So it's definitely going to affect the people on the front end. It's likely going to affect the people that are also downstream, unfortunately. So I just want you to be aware of that. So Joe writes in, and Joe says, I talked to my Voc Rehab counselor's boss and am now getting approved for office. Awesome. Was a pain in the arse, literally. Joe, good job. You should be very proud of that. Part of why is that VR&E has made it very hard to get accommodative systems for veterans. And so for you to be able to get this from VR&E directly is really kudos to you for keeping your cool and for making that happen. I have the chair that I use is a Herman Miller Embody chair, which I really like. It's my favorite chair so far. I used to like the Aeron, which I gave to my wife in her office, but this is, by far and away the best chair for me. It may not be the best chair for everybody, but for me, it works really well. I'm super stoked about it. Very happy with it. It's been a real godsend when it comes to my leg and back issues. So it's really helped me tremendously. So anyway, kudos to you, Joe. Good job. And then Bill says, awesome. Thank you. Yeah. Hey, Bill, if you do see this and you're still there, what are you trying to get approved? I'd be curious to see. Then we have Red Robin. I'm kind of confused. Do the Voc Rehab counselors receive bonuses for denying vets entitlements? Do they get fired for approving too many vets? Okay, so good question. I think that what happens, it's not quite that simple. I think what they do is they use what are called like fiduciary checks or fiscal responsibility checks. And these are ways where they verify that the counselor did everything by the book. And if you didn't, then you might get pinged. There may be an incentive to more easily deny because they may not look into that as hard as they do for certain approvals, especially approvals where the veteran has extensive disabilities and maybe the veteran is having a hard time completing the training. So I just want you to be aware that's a potential issue. So do they get direct bonuses for denying veteran entitlements? Not exactly. Do they get bonuses for being correct in their decision-making according to VA? Yes. For maintaining their quotas? Yes. They don't call them quotas, but yeah, maintaining their quotas. So as a consequence of that, more veterans might get denied than otherwise because they're afraid to go out on a limb for a veteran to approve a case that might be more of a long shot. And so that could be. So indirectly, one could argue that they do get bonuses for that. So I hope that helps. I just talked to my VR&E. So this is original_SJB. I'm not sure what that means, but hopefully it's not a potty word. I just talked to VR&E, and they are checking with my school for certs and are happy to help me. Awesome. And hopefully you're in an office, maybe that's run by a good VRC. There are many good and great VRCs out there that really do care about veterans. And there's been a lot of misinformation within the program about what the program does and about what they've been telling people that the program does internally in training. So the biggest thing, and I'm just going to tease this out right now, I have potentially uncovered an issue. And one of the issues is this myth that VR&E is only an employment program. Again, if you've heard that VR&E is only an employment program, that may be false information or incomplete information. So we have not been told the full story, and I've been doing research on this in light of a couple issues that have come to my attention, and am now concerned that the policy VR&E has been following and mandating may be incorrect because of their perception about what VR&E is and is not. So VR&E may actually be an education program, which explains a whole lot. Legally an education program. So I'm just, that happens to have employment services as part of what it does, but it may actually be an educational program. So we'll just see. I'm getting to the bottom of it as we speak. So Joe writes in, yes, that happened to me. I had to get my C-file and present it to my counselor. Right. Since the hospital I didn't take into the, right. Yeah. So pretty big issue, the whole record thing. And it's a bit of a mess. It's amazing that VRE can get what, or not VRE rather, but VA generally can get what they do get as quickly as they do. The system used to be just a complete train wreck, but it's certainly a lot more efficient today. Let's see here. Original SJB took less than 2 weeks for VRC to contact. Oh my God. See? Also amazing news. I'd be very curious when you respond, which office you're referring to. Not all offices are created equal, I'll tell you that. And we do have direct documentation that this is happening in San Diego. We have the emails. It is for sure happening. They are sending the emails out to veterans. It is 100% going on at San Diego. I am suspicious that it's probably going on elsewhere. San Diego may be the only office that actually, for whatever reason, thought it made sense to send that out to veterans in an email, which is, I'm glad, but well, we have a copy now, so that's good. So Rolando says, my plan is to utilize VR&E benefits for my undergrad and hopefully to be authorized for a graduate degree. If I don't have enough months available, I would like to use post 9/11. Okay. However, my 15 years of the GI Bill ends in 2025. Does it? I guess it depends on when you got out. How does one go about extending one's post 9/11? So very difficult, Rolando, to extend post 9/11 GI Bill. Going to be very tricky for you to do that. Post 9/11 GI Bill is super hard to extend unless it's for generally medical reasons where you might be like incapacitated. So if you're incapacitated, then yeah, it's going to be, maybe possible. If not, though, it's going to be kind of tough. So let's see here. 15 years. All right. So what I would do is, depending on the type, whether you have a serious employment handicap now, and I don't know enough about your case to know if that's true. If you have a serious employment handicap, then it could be possible and should be possible to, okay, if you're IU, I see your follow-up here. So if you are IU, then, which it sounds like you are, then probably have serious employment handicap. If you have serious employment handicap, and you're approved for VR&E already, then I would really take a hard look at potentially getting approved for a program that includes the graduate training component. VR&E is required to address this for veterans who are definite competitive disadvantage compared to undisabled veterans, where the additional training will help them overcome, in part, the competitive disadvantage. VR&E will ignore that regulation, and they will not address that part of the regulation. If they can, they won't even write it down, that part. I'm referring to 38 CFR 21.72, B to I through triple I is what I'm referring to. They just won't. They won't even address it, which is to me amazing. So I just want you to be aware that is a potential issue. So having said that, for you, I would encourage you, if you're thinking grad school is going to be necessary in this context, or even if it's not necessary, if it will help you overcome that competitive disadvantage compared to non-disabled persons, especially if you're older or if you're disabled. I mean, it just seems like common sense that anybody with a disability that's older from the military is likely going to have some kind of competitive disadvantage. So it'd be very good to try to overcome that by getting the additional training, and hope to get it approved ahead of time. Do not graduate and then ask for this. Do not graduate and then ask for this, okay? I'm going to say it one more time. This is my third time. Do not graduate and then ask for the graduate training at that point. That won't make sense. So make sure that you have a good handle on what your vocational goal is, and then, all that stuff. So I hope that helps. It's super, super tricky. So let's see here. Original SJB says Columbia, South Carolina. Okay, that's really good. Awesome. So that means that they are hopefully in front of this type of issue. So anyway, I have been on here for about a half hour. I'm going to cut it short because I got to do a few things, but I wanted to at least take a minute to see if anyone else has any other dying questions. I don't see any. Oh, Bill, I'm assuming Bill Lumberg, you're referring to Bill Lumberg of Office Space, but maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, Montgomery, Alabama. So, all right. Well, anyway, I'm going to cut this short. It's about a half hour, so that's all I got in me today. God bless. If you're watching this, be aware there's going to be a massive slowdown when it comes to processing. It's going to affect a lot of veterans. It may not affect everybody. So if it doesn't affect you, man, that's awesome. If it does affect you, there are going to be some things that I'm going to comment on here in a little bit, and ways and methods that may help you bridge that gap. So until next time, hope you have a great weekend, and hopefully you spend it with loved ones and friends. Bye for now.